Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Druids, or if you know me off Twitter, I'm Murphy. As is tradition, I like telling people I'm married because I'm happy I'm married. My wife Susan is somewhere in the audience, and something I like doing is I'll tell you guys to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm trying to get her to 1K subscribers, and she's currently at 797. Yes. Before I start, her YouTube handle is Susan, Suzen, Usifo. Please, thank you. All right. Yeah, so just a quick intro of myself. I'm Usifo. I lead design at a global company called Socket. We're currently doing around $30 billion in transaction volume. And when I joined them, we were doing around $500. So it makes a very good, impactful piece on my resume. So today, I'll be talking about designing on-chain AI apps. Okay, yes, I'm supposed to use this. Oh, yes. So just to give you a quick intro, I work in the Web3 space, or as most of you know it, the blockchain space. And if you've ever tried coming into this space as a newbie, right, it's a bit complicated. There are a lot of unnecessary jargons in the space. The UX is a bit clunky. The UI is very intimidating, right? And there's that fear of you losing your money, right? And now we have AI, right? AI has opened my world so much, and this is a big shout out to Design Chief Priest. He's probably somewhere in the audience, right? He's probably one of the biggest, not probably, he's one of the biggest motivation on how I got into AI and what sort of stimulated my interest in basically doing anything related to artificial intelligence. But right now we have this blockchain world where we have this huge demand for designers, right? They pay a shit ton of money. And we have AI, which is an emerging tech that also pays a shit ton of money, right? And you're probably wondering, how do I get into them? I'm probably interested in AI. I'm probably interested in the blockchain, right? But I can't decide which to get into, right? Which is how we're having this talk. So when blockchain meets AI, they give birth to something we call on-chain AI agents, right? It's basically AI living on the blockchain. So you see me using the word on-chain a lot. It basically means anything on the blockchain, right? It's on-chain. And right now we have this issue where there's this complicated stack in Web3, right? The UX stack has its own issues. There are technical constraints around building products on the blockchain, right? And we have these new things called on-chain AI agents. The reason we're having this talk is we want a situation where everyone here, right, can contribute to making sure that these on-chain AI agents that are coming on, right, we have well-documented design standards for them, right? So that way we don't have the current problem we're having in Web3. The issue we have in Web3 right now is that the first products that were coming out in 2020, 2019, 2018 were being built by developers, right? And it has gone on for so long where the UI and the UX has become so complicated, it's very difficult for us to untangle that UX. Because on one side, we have power users that have been using these applications for like 9 years, right? And they're fine with it. But we have newbies that are coming into this space and they have to start learning what mnemonic keys are, seed phrases are, and all that nonsense, right? And we don't want that to happen with these AI on-chains, right? Which is why we are yapping about these things. The second reason we are also here is I like looking at emerging industry trends and helping designers in Nigeria position for these trends in such a way that when it becomes a mainstream thing, we're already there. In 2021, I was already yapping about design system before they became a mainstream thing, right? 2020 started talking about blockchain apps before everybody wanted to come into Web3. And I see a future where in the next 2 to 3, 5 years, right, AI is going to be everywhere in almost every product, right? I want a situation where in the future, everyone here is positioned for that future, okay? So yes, why are we talking about this? So right now we have 3 main industry trends which are more or less colliding. We have AI on one side, we have Web3 or blockchain, and we have product design and UX, right? And right now, these blockchain ecosystem, Solana, Fetch, Ori Chain, Base, they are dedicated a huge amount of resource to this industry that's emerging, right? Which means there's a demand for the talent there, but we don't have as much supply, right? So this talk is to get you up to speed so you become a talent that's in demand, all right? So yes, I'm coming. I have something interesting to talk about here. So usually when I'm trying to figure out if a product needs AI, there are three ways I think about it, right? If you've read Solo Leveling or you've watched Solo Leveling, which I think is the mid version of Solo Leveling, there are different levels when it comes to hunter classes, right? You have A class, B class, and all that. So the way I like to think about if I should integrate AI into a product, I like starting from the A class, right? A supporting role. How do I want AI to be in this product? And if you are here, and this is your first time thinking about how to integrate these things into products, always want to think from the supporting role. How can AI reduce friction in my product and make these products even better, right? That's the first step. Then the second step is you want AI to start making decisions, right? This is like level 2. We'll call this S class, right? You want it to start making decisions, but you still have to give the final approval on that decision. Then we have level 3 where the AI is doing everything, which I think is where it gets very interesting. I'm a very lazy person, right? I like buying the coin and leaving it there, right? And most times I tend to forget it. But when we get to level 3, this AI, they start running what we call self-running on-chain workflows. There's USD, let me use a currency like BTC, right? BTC on Binance, for example, is $91,000, right? And probably on Coinbase, it's 90.5K. There's that $500 arbitrage there, right? But what these self-running on-chain AIs could do for you is just give it your 1K USD, right? It's going to arbitrage, wherever it sees arbitrage opportunities, it's going to do that and automatically trade for you. You don't have to do anything. Then we have conversational financial tools, which is my personal favorite. I have a friend building something in this space. What it does is for you is, if you have no interest or idea about investing, right, and you probably want to change your 1K to 2K or your 2K to 4K, right, or whatever, with these two, all you have to do is come into the product and say, I have $1,000, what's the best way for me to earn interest on this? Right, and that's what this is going to do for you. Right, then basically we have these other things, customizable agents. This is for developers who wants to build agents on the blockchain. Then we have automations that are trustworthy. Trustworthy in the sense that you can have an in-game character built by AI, but it's on-chain. These characters can do this in-game for you, and when you come online, you can see all their actions verifiable on the blockchain. Right, but I think where it gets interesting for us designers is conversational financial tools and self-running on-chain workflows. Okay, yes. How do we build these things? How do I get started with building these on-chain AI agents? It's very simple. One resource I'll give you, which would have the biggest impact on your career, is just Googling conversational design principle, Google, right? That's the phrase you should Google. Conversational design principle, Google. Google has, they have a very comprehensive resource on how to design for AI, right? And it's a bit different from designing a traditional UI. It's more or less UX focused, right? When you start doing this, you start thinking of yourself as a scriptwriter, because the first step in designing these tools is you deciding what this product is going to do, right? Basically, you're trying to decide what the intent of your users are going to be, right? All these are basic terms you can learn on your own, right? So Google has this resource, and in this resource, there are 4 principles you use when you're trying to design these on-chain, or even AI products in general, right? And it's a principle coined by Paul Grice in 1975, right? So we have what we call 4 maxims, which is the maxim of quality, quantity, relevance, and manner. What these things basically mean is, when you are designing AI products, you want to give, in terms of quantity, you want to give the right amount of information, not too much, not too little, but there should probably be a link for users to get more info if they choose to, right? They also have the maximum of quality, which means whatever output your product is giving should always be truthful. If you do not have the data to support what you are giving, right, admit uncertainty inside your product, right, then probably self-redirect the users to recover from that error. This is very important because AI have things we call hallucination, right? Hallucination happens when probably in the training data used in building this product, there's a gap somewhere, right? Or the data source they are fetching from is outdated. And you can probably ask an AI, what's the price of this stock? And they give you a price from like 2 weeks, right? And this violates the maxim of quality. So when you're designing this product, you want to have guardrails for things like this, right? So everything you're seeing here is just a summary of these maxims. Then we have the maxim of relevance, right? Relevance in the sense that whatever information you are giving to the user has to be relevant to the conversation, right? I can't be asking about how to increase my money from 5% to 10%, and you're probably telling me about gas fee, right? Then we also have manner, right? Your information should be orderly. You have to use plain language when you're designing. Then there's one tool I also have which helps me a lot, which I'll share with you guys. I don't know how I'm going to do that, right? But I built a GPT for these things, right? I don't have to do these things myself because designing these things can be stressful and the process is a bit repetitive, right? You have to design the user persona, you have to design the AI persona, you have to decide what the intent should be and these other things, right? I built a GPT that automatically does this for you. All you have to do is go into the GPT and say, I want to design a product for this, right? And it's going to give you a full case study on how to go about that. Very helpful. I'll share that with you guys. Yes, which is why we're here. How does open source fit in, right? You don't have to build the next ChatGPT to matter. You can contribute to a ton of things in the space. The first one is agent frameworks. This is for developers, right? There are open registries for data sets where, as a developer, you can go into the GitHubs and contribute to these open source projects. Then we also have core protocols like Base, Fetch AI, right, where you can contribute directly. There are even a ton of bounties on contribution. Then we have, I think this is for us designers, conversational UX kits. At its basic form, if you needed one actionable thing to do from this talk, right, is to create what we call sample dialogs. Usually when you're designing AI products, all AI products will have this singularity. It's either they are a chat product or they are a voice product or they are multimodal, which means they have chat and voice. Where it gets interesting for you as a product designer or as a UX or whatever designer you are, right? It's in the UX, right? How do you design what that conversation should be? How should it feel like, right? And this is what we can do after we leave this talk. So the way you design this sample dialogue is basically you scripting what the conversation between the user and the AI is going to look like, right? It's something you do on pen and paper, or you do on Notion, or you do whatever documentation tool you use, right? And it's very simple. What intent, what do the user want to do? I want to swap crypto, right? The next thing you want to figure out is what do the users usually see when they want to swap crypto, right? I want to swap one USD to this, I want to swap half this to this, I want to swap this to this. Then after figuring out the intent and utterances, you want to figure out what we call entity or slots, right? Which are things in that conversation that the AI is going to pick up for it to start, for it to create a response to the user, right? So you do this in pen and paper, and you can prototype this with tools like VoiceFlow, right? Shout out Design Chief Priest again. He put me on VoiceFlow. So you don't prototype these things in Figma, except you are designing the UI. But if you want to prototype these conversations and these interactions, you use tools like VoiceFlow. Then for writers, you can create educational content around how these things work, around how terminologies work, and around how people can contribute to open source. Yes, industry impact, right? Why should we be doing this? Personally, I think we should be doing this because, one, it helps drive better UX standards, right? Founders, developers, designers do not have to rethink the wheel when they are trying to figure out what the UX of the product should look like, right? It also enables a new AI economy for developers, right? You can build an AI agent, right, on the blockchain, and whenever it's being called or a conversation is being had with these agents, you can attach micropayments to it, right, and you get to make good money from it. Then also in-game, you can have AI characters in-game that help you make money on-chain. Restoring trust in AI. Most of the things happening on-chain become provable, right? If an AI is doing something, and you need proof of that thing, instead of just the AI just giving you this, can give you a link to probably an Explorer somewhere where you can actually verify what is being, the output being given to you. Then obviously we want to break platform monopolies, so projects like OpenAI, Gemini, and all that, right? Then, oh, what happened? Blank screen. Okay, yes. Then I think I want to get to the interesting part, right? How do we get started? Right, this is the interesting part. All those things are things I just wrote when I had to submit this slide. How do we get started? Right? How do we make money from this? I think the first thing you want to do is you would want to create a GPT. I think that's the easiest way to get started. Right? You want to create a GPT with ChatGPT. It can get a bit overwhelming every day, especially if you follow Design Chief Priest. Every day is always mentioning one new AI tool that is coming up. Right? For you to get started, I think the first thing you want to do is, what is your interest? What can AI help you do in your day-to-day task? The first GPT I created is a GPT called UX Writer. So I basically took a documentation from material guidelines, which I use for writing my UX copies in product. I do not know how to write copy, but if you see my product, you would think I'm a very good copywriter, right? So what I basically did was took that material guideline link, went to ChatGPT, created a GPT, right? Gave it that as a source, and whenever I need copy, all I have to do is just call that GPT. That's the first thing I did, right? The second thing I did, second GPT I created, is a GPT for teaching me how to build Figma plugins, right? Because for you to design for AI, you have to know how AI works, right? And for you to know that, you have to start building things with it, right? So easiest way is to create a GPT, figure out what do I want to repeat, what's repetitive in my day-to-day task that I can get done inside this GPT, right? I also have a GPT for my wife. So yeah, there are GPTs for everything. So create a GPT. After creating a GPT, the next thing you want to do is to build a Figma plugin. Very easy. If you need resources on that, just go to Design Chief Priest's Twitter page. He has a ton of resources on doing that. So after creating your GPT, building your first plugin, in the course of building your plugin, you will make your first commit, right? I made my first commit this year. I was very excited. And making that commit in GitHub, in the course of learning how to build Figma plugins, right, has given me, I'll say it has made me a high agency person at work. Right? As a product designer, I've written 2 commits in our official GitHub, right, and it has been pushed to prod, right? So in the course of doing things, I have gotten better at my job, and I love my job, right? It's something I like to say. I love my job. Then create your GPT, build your Figma plugin, then start building in public. I know we say this a lot, build in public, build in public, build in public, right? But the best way for you to land your dream role is to build in public. I have my dream job right now, and I landed that by building in public. I think I'm the only person in my current company that had just 1 interview, right? Because by building in public, they already knew what I could do, right? So I did not have to go through the whole five-stage interview process. Right? And you want to be a global champion. You don't want to restrict yourself to Nigeria. I keep saying this, Nigerian founders cannot pay us enough for the work we do, right? And in order for you to get the kind of money you want, right, your dream money, whatever money you're thinking is your dream money, you can earn more than that, right? I used to think, okay, my wife said I stopped talking about money in public, right? But I used to think my current salary was my dream money, right? But I knew I can earn more than I'm earning right now. And the way for me to do that is to become a high agency person at work, right? I want to get more responsibilities. And we're at an age where you can just do things. I think it's very interesting. You can just do anything. You can just learn anything, right? It's very interesting that if you go into my ChatGPT history, right, I'm learning how to build robots, right? I'm learning how to do electronics. I'm learning how to build products for the military, right? Defense tech. I'm just learning anything because I can. Now, I am even learning how to invest in stock. I have a GPT that automatically lets me know what stock to invest in, right? It's so crazy because I did not have to learn how stock work, right? I know that in order to buy stock, I have to evaluate this, I have to evaluate this. I just took all those information, gave it to ChatGPT, and if I ever enter a stock name, say Figma, right, it lets me know what modes Figma have, what price to buy, and what price to sell, right? And right now, we can just do things. And yes, I think that's it for my talk. Thank you for coming to my talk.